Okay, part 3 of going over Jews in the encyclopedia from the 1890s. Go back and watch parts 1 and 2. They'll obviously be right before it. The Egyptian or Alexandrian dispersion, Gola, destined to be of vast importance in the development of Judaism and Christianity, gradually spread over the whole country, from Libya to Ethiopia. They enjoyed equal rights with their fellow subjects, both Egyptian and Greek, and were admitted to the highest dignities and offices, so that many further immigrants followed of their own free will. The freedom they enjoyed enabled them to reach, under Greek auspices, the highest eminence in science and art. To this period belongs the Greek translation of the Bible, the Septuagint, which in its turn, while it estranged the people more and more from the language of their fathers, gave rise to a vast pseudo-epigraphical and apocryphal literature, not to mention the peculiar Greco-Jewish philosophy, which sprang from a mixture of Hellenism and Orientalism. For 100 years, Judah herself remained under Egyptian rule. During the reigns of the first 3 Ptolemies, it prospered, but after the accession of Ptolemy Philopator, a change for the worse came over the fortunes of the Jews. After his death, Antiochus III of Syria incorporated Palestine with the dominions of the Seleucidae and treated the Jews less favorable than their Egyptian masters had done. Their fate became harder still under his son, Antiochus Epiphanes, or Epimanes, the madman, who by every means a cruel and foolhardily policy could devise, outraged the religious feelings of the nation. To force the Jews into the Greek religion, the temple at Jerusalem was dedicated to Jupiter Olympius. Idol altars were built in every village, and the people constrained to offer swine daily. Some yielded, many fled, the greater part preferred martyrdom in some shape or other. At this juncture, the heroic family of Mattathias, a priest of the house of Hasmoneans, rose together with a few patriots against the immense power of the Syrians. The national cause quickly gathered strength, and after the death of Mattathias, 166 BC, Judas Maccabeus led the nation host to victory against the Syrians. After his death, 161, his brothers Jonathan and Simon completed the work of deliverance and instituted the Sanhedrin. During their rule, alliances were twice formed with the Romans, and the country once more began to prosper. Under Simon, more especially, Syrian rule became a more shadow. His was an almost absolute power, so much so that in the year 170 of the Seleucidan era, 142 BC, a new Jewish era was commenced, and public documents bore date. In the first year of Simon, high priest and chief of the Jews, Simon's sons John Hyrcanus, after a brief period of vassalage to the Syrians, extended his authority over Samaria, Galilee, Idumea. The Idumeans began being converted to the Jewish religion. His son, Aristobulus, added Ituri to the dominions. Alexander Jannaeus succeeded his brother, further contrived to enlarge his territories. He was disliked by the mass of the countrymen, and a civil war of 6 years' duration ensued. His wife, Alexandra, securing the support of the Pharisees, governed on the whole prudently for 9 years. The Pharisaic party, however, abused the power which fell into their hands, and a reaction took place. Aristobulus, youngest son of the queen, marched to Jerusalem and ejected his elder brother, Hyrcanus II, from the sovereignty. This led to the interference of the Romans, who were then fighting both in Syria and Armenia. Jerusalem was captured 63 BC by Pompey, Judah made dependent on the Roman province of Syria, and Hyrcanus appointed ethnarch and high priest. In 54 BC, Licinius Crassus plundered the temple which Pompey had spared. When the war between Caesar and Pompey broke out, the partisans of Pompey were numerous in Syria and contrived to poison Aristobulus and execute his son Alexander, who were Caesarians, 49 BC. After the death of Pompey, however, things changed. And Hyrcanus, or rather Antipater, the Idumean, who was both his minister and master, saw the necessity of securing the favor of Caesar. With Hyrcanus II ended the line of the Hasmonean princes. They were normally both sovereigns and high priests, but the real religious authority had passed into the hands of the priesthood and especially of the Sanhedrin. The Idumean dynasty virtually commenced with Antipater, who prevailed on Caesar to restrict Hyrcanus to the high priesthood and obtained for himself the office of procurator of Judea, while his oldest son, Phasael, was appointed governor of Jerusalem, and his younger son, Herod, governor of Galilee. The Jewish or national party took alarm at the sudden increase of Idumean power. Strife ensued, and ultimately Antipater perished by poison. But Herod, by the assistance of the Romans, finally entered Jerusalem in triumph, 37 BC, caused Antigonus, the last male representative of the Hasmonean line and his most dangerous enemy, to be put to death, and commenced the difficult task of governing a people who were growing more and more unruly every day. For the history of the next period, see Herod. After Herod's death in 4 BC, Archelaus, one of his sons, ruled Judah and Samaria, but his arbitrariness and still more his constant attacks upon religion made him hateful to the people. And Augustus, listening to their just complaints, deprived him of his power and banished him to Vienna. Judea was now thrown together with Syria and ruled by Roman governors. In the year 38 AD, the Emperor Caligula issued an edict ordering divine honors to be paid to himself. Everywhere throughout the Romanian dominions, the Jews refused to obey. In Alexandria, a frightful massacre took place, and for the time it seemed as if the whole of the inhabitants of Judea, too, were doomed to perish. Herod Agrippa obtained anew from Claudius the dominion over all the parts once ruled by his grandfather Herod, and many privileges were through his influence granted to his Jewish subjects and even to foreign Jews. They received the rights of Roman citizenship, 41 AD, and their ruler even tried to consolate their religious prejudices by the strictness with which he observed their law. Yet the national party remained malcontent and in an utmost permanent state of mutiny. After the death of Herod Agrippa I, the country was again subjected to Roman governors. The confusion soon became indescribable. The whole land was overrun with robbers and assassins, some of whom professed to be animated by religious motives, while others were mere ruffianly freebooters and cutthroats. The antipathy between Jews and Samaritans waxed fiercer and fiercer, and the latter waylaid and murdered the Orthodox Galileans as they went up to worship at Jerusalem. All sorts of impostors, fanatics, and pretenders to magic made their appearance. The priesthood was riven by dissensions. The hatreds between the populace and the Roman soldiery, mostly of Greco-Syrian origin, and under the command of cruel procurators such as the Albinus and Gaius Florus, increased. Frightful portents, according to Josephus, appeared in the heavens until in 66 AD, in spite of all the precautionary efforts taken by Agrippa, the party of zealots, also called Sicarii or assassins, burst into open rebellion, which after a horrible carnage was terminated 70 AD by the conquest of Jerusalem by Titus, the destruction of the temple, and the massacre and banishment of hundreds of thousands of the unhappy people who were scattered among the brethren in all parts of the world. Come back for part 4.